Hello and welcome back to 1874. It's time for a match preview as Aston Villa take on Newcastle at Villa Park on Saturday for the 5:30 kickoff. I've labelled it the biggest game left in the Premier League season, and we'll see if Sky Sports News' best presenter ever, Dave Reed, agrees with me in just a few seconds. This show is sponsored by Match Bingo. If you want to download the app, go to 1874.io/Match Bingo. And if you buy 4 cards, you'll get a card for free. I won £25 on the PSG game, so I had 5 cards and I won £25, which was very, very welcome with big life events coming up. If you head to that link that I've just read out, you can buy your cards for the game against Newcastle. Actually, I was looking at the leaderboard earlier, and someone is £1,000 up with Match Bingo so far, so it's definitely worth checking it out. Adds a little bit of fun to the proceedings when you're watching the Villa games. I got one line to win £25. If you get a full house, you will win £250. So I'm aiming for that full house against Newcastle on Saturday. Now, as I mentioned, I am joined by Sky Sports News' David Reed. I'm not in my usual place. It's my London day today, so I'm at TalkSport this afternoon. So I am hidden away in an office, a very echoey office. So apologies for the audio, if it is a bit more echoey than usual. Dave Reed's got traffic issues outside his house as well. I can
God, everything comes through this mic, doesn't it?
And a baby who's just woke up as well. But Dave, how are you? I saw you were as I was walking out the ground against PSG on Tuesday night. Sky Sports News was up on the screens, and I saw your beautiful face.
Oh, you didn't take a picture?
No, I should have done. Shouldn't I?
Oh, you should have.
I was looking for my dad went to the toilet. I sometimes think he goes missing. Don't know whether he's going to come back out. So I was a bit distracted, but I did see your face, which was, I wasn't too upset, in all honesty, after the PSG game. A little bit of regret, obviously. But then to see your face, just a wonderful thing walking out of Villa Park.
Oh, that's very kind. I think that was the overall feeling, wasn't it, after the game in midweek, that although Villa, I think if it was against another opponent on a different night and a different competition, you would come away from that game and look at the chances that were either missed or saved by the PSG goalkeeper, and you'd be absolutely gutted. But
Yeah.
I just don't feel that way, having come away from watching that game. You kind of, it's just a feeling of pride, really, as to how far the club has come, how those players stepped up to the level, and put on a great show for the supporters in the final, what now turns out to be the final Champions League game this season.
And there's no time to dwell, Dave, because arguably, really, a bigger game this weekend at Villa Park. There's no time to dwell, as I've just said, but we almost now, like Gabby Abonlahor said on TalkSport after the game, that I'm greedy now. Like, now I've experienced Villa in the Champions League, I want it every season. And it's huge for the club to do back-to-back Champions Leagues, and they've put themselves in a good position in the second half of the season to do that with the work that they did in January and the squad depth that they now have. They've given themselves a massive chance of securing Champions League football again. Unfortunately, Newcastle have given themselves a very good chance of getting Champions League football once again for their club as well. They've already won a trophy. Newcastle and Villa on similar trajectories, aren't they? I mean, Newcastle qualify for the Champions League and win the Carabao Cup, and Villa qualify for the Champions League and win the FA Cup. Oof. I actually think that's quite good for football generally.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you kind of, I'm putting all the kind of ownership stuff with Newcastle to one side, obviously.
You just have to when you talk about it, I'm afraid. It's not right, but you do have to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got a lot of Newcastle supporting friends, and you know how amazing that fan base is and how much pride they have in the club and how much it hurt them when they were struggling a little bit. Similar to Villa, really. And for to see new clubs, I'm saying new, but new relative to the kind of big six or the traditional big six, try and gate crash that and do it with great coaches, both Villa and Newcastle, players elevating their level. It's not been done by, Villa spent money, Newcastle spent money, but it's not been to the scale of, say, when Manchester City had their takeover and when Chelsea had their taker from Roman Abramovich. It's not been a kind of influx of massive names and massive players at that point. So it is good, and I think it helps the competition of the league as well.
Yeah. Oscar Zaremba, who sounds like a footballer, to be honest. Can imagine the crowd in the whole tent singing, "Oh, Oscar Zaremba." He says, "Morning, gents. Feeling very proud of the boys. They're really nervous to play the tune. How will not having Eddie Howe there affect them?" Now, I was talking to my dad on the way back from the PSG game, thinking, actually that might end up being a good thing for Villa. Obviously, we wish Eddie Howe well, and we want him to get well soon, but could play into Villa's hands. Their main man, their manager, not being there. Then they played Crystal Palace last night, and they won 5-0, Dave, off the back of beating Manchester United 4-1 as well. So it doesn't seem to have hindered them too much so far.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Jason Tindler's, who's obviously the assistant, and we know all about him this season.
He
He's
likes the limelight more than me.
an interesting character.
Yeah.
And he's obviously taken charge of the team, and he's gone on record in the news conferences saying he's not really going to be having much contact at all with Eddie Howe while he recovers. And obviously, we wish him well on that recovery. So, given the fact that Eddie Howe doesn't have too much to do with the day-to-day right now, a lot of the responsibility falls on Jason Tindall. And I think it kind of highlights really, he obviously has this character, this persona on the touchline. Sometimes it comes across as antagonistic, maybe a lot of the time. Some people might say
earlier on the season, didn't it?
Yeah, it comes across as antagonistic, none more so than the game at St James's Park and what happened on the touchline there, and actually in the tunnel, I think, as well during half time. So I think sometimes maybe that takes away a little bit from actually how good a coach Jason Tindall is. He's been with Eddie Howe for such a long time now, from their time at Bournemouth. They have a great relationship. He did a great interview, Jason Tindall, I think it was with The Telegraph a couple of weeks ago, where he basically said, me and Eddie don't really socialise outside of Newcastle. We're not great friends. We just have a brilliant working relationship. He's like, we spend so much time together anyway. Why would we want to go out to dinner after a game or after training? So, and I think his main responsibilities have obviously been supporting the head coach, but also set pieces and the defensive unit. And I think now, obviously, his remit is a bit wider, and you kind of look at it in both ways. Maybe it's a good thing going into this game from a Villa perspective that Eddie Howe's not had much to do with the team, but then you see them chugging along now. It's almost like, from my point of view anyway, they're on a little bit of autopilot. Everything is so well drilled that every player knows their job going into each game, and the fact that the players are playing with so much confidence, it seems like their level has raised again since winning the Carabao Cup. It's just given them a bit of not invincibility, but it's almost given them, the players, a bit of an aura about them. They just feel that they can kind of walk onto the pitch with their chest puffed out, and they can beat anyone. And I think that has shown on the pitch. I mean, last night was devastating for Crystal Palace. I mean, they've actually been in pretty good form as well, taking away the Man City result for them. And for Newcastle to completely blow them away in the first half, it really hurt Palace. Obviously, the penalty was shocking from Eze. And then 2 minutes later, Newcastle go up the field. And that's obviously having a psychological blow on Palace. But Newcastle are playing so well at the moment.
Yeah, there's some bad penalties last night in the football, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Couple of iffy pens last night in the Champions League and the Premier League for sure. The other thing with Tindall, I guess, is as well, he's got managerial experience because he was Bournemouth's head coach for a while as well. So it's not like his first go at being a manager. He has actually done it before. It's that time of the week, Dave, where we try and predict Aston Villa's team and how they might line up. And I'm going to be honest, it is almost pointless. This segment, I think neither of us would have got anywhere near the right team for PSG on Tuesday.
We weren't too far off, I don't think.
I don't think did either of us have Tielemans as a 10. I don't think.
No, we didn't. No, that was the main.
And I think we both said Watkins as well. So
I said Rashford. I was fairly confident Rashford.
I will say we'll come on to it later, but I've got a couple of hot takes right.
Goodness
as well.
Goodness.
So I'm two for two in the last two games with the hot takes and no ice cold takes here. Rather than, I suppose, try and guess the team, because we always get it wrong, I want to talk to you about Morgan Rodgers' role a little bit. Probably not his strongest game against PSG, which is unfortunate because on his day he can definitely affect games and be Villa's best player. I want to talk to you about what you make of him playing as this kind of right number 10. Because for me, obviously he has got goals and he has got assists from that position. But generally for me, his all-round game and his involvement in games has definitely dwindled since he started playing there. But when Emery wants to get certain players on the pitch, it feels like he kind of has to go there. What have you made of him as a right 10?
I think first of all you have to praise him for his versatility and the fact that he's able to do multiple roles. He's almost a modern footballer personified, really, the fact that he can play different roles to such a high level. And that's obviously something that the top managers are looking for these days, players that can play multiple roles. So I think
And we've
firstly,
got
you
that
have
in
to,
abundance, haven't we, with other
yeah.
players as well? And it is a strong suit of Villa, I would say.
So I think personally, you have to praise him for that. I think you're right. I mean, I don't know this for sure because I haven't seen an interview, and if people have seen him be asked this, then put it in the comments. But I haven't seen him interviewed and asked what his most favoured position is. But I suspect if he was asked, it would be that second striker role, because he started the season so well in that position. And I think he gets a little bit more involved in the play when he's in that second striker position. And I think he's able, I think he's just got the game intelligence to know where to position himself for counter-attacks and transitions, where he's able to pick the ball up in deeper areas, drive, shrug players off the ball. I just remember that game against Arsenal early in the season at home, and he was kind of buffeting players and bumper cars, knocking people over left, right, and centre. And I think from watching him live and also, a lot on the TV as well, that feels to me like his best position. Sometimes when he's out wide, I don't feel like he gets involved in the play as much. And then for me anyway, it feels like he's a type of player that needs to be involved to get that rhythm of the game. Sometimes if he's been out of the game for a little bit, his touch might not be quite right. He's one of those players I feel like that needs to feel the ball to be in the game. And that for me means that his best position is that second striker. The fact is that Villa have kind of moved away from that in the second half of the season, in particular, with signings of Asensio and Rashford. It means that Villa have very much shifted from the kind of 4-4-2 that we'd seen under Unai Emery, or the 4-box-2, whatever you want to call it, 3-box-3, into this kind of 4-2-3-1, and it means that Rodgers has suffered a little bit in terms of him moving out to the right hand side to accommodate Asensio, or indeed to the left hand side as well. So, yeah, for me, if in answer to your question, I think probably his best position is that second striker. But the fact that Villa have kind of changed a little bit means that it's almost necessary for him to play wide.
Yeah, I think centre forward again, I think could be a toss up, but Rashford obviously was electric in the second half against PSG. So it'd be difficult now, I think, to pull him out of this one. Although is there one eye on Tuesday with him up against his old foe Manchester City? I'm not sure. I think across the next 2-3 games there is going to have to be some rotation, like there has been anyway across the competitions. Obviously, Rodgers is a lock off the striker. I think McGinn is a lock off the striker for this one. So then I'm thinking maybe Ramsey for this one. That's the three I'm going to plump for off the striker.
Yeah, it's so hard. I've got no idea.
I think Mings comes back into the back four as well for Newcastle.
I agree. I think Mings comes into the back four. I actually think Watkins starts this game and Rashford drops to the bench. Okay. My thought process for that is that Newcastle are, such a physical side, and it's basically going to be a fight with the Newcastle centre halves. And out of possession, Newcastle lock on and go man for man, particularly in deep build up. So Dan Burns probably going to be tracking whoever Villa's number 10 is. Fabian Schär is going to be up against Ollie Watkins or Marcus Rashford. And the fact is they try and bully you, they try and run all over you. And I think just Watkins' added physicality is going to be needed in this game early on to try and get the better of a centre-back. And I just think that's an area of Ollie Watkins' game that has improved so much over the last few years, that he's able to kind of have a fight with a centre-back basically and have that physical battle and win it and hold the ball up. And I think that's going to be key against Newcastle early in the game. And my feeling then would be that Rashford might be an entrant in the second half if Villa needs something added, and obviously if they decide to make a change with Tuesday in mind as well, by taking Watkins off and giving Rashford some minutes. So that would be my thought in that respect. I do wonder whether, if I'm kind of saying, well, we're talking about a physical battle, then maybe it might seem odd if I think Asensio might start this game. So I don't really know. It could be anyone: McGinn, Asensio, Ramsey, Rodgers. It'll be three of those four. I'm just not sure which ones.
No, I'm gonna go with Ramsey, McGinn, and Rodgers. did think in the PSG game we kind of missed the opportunity maybe to swap McGinn and Rodgers over at various points in the game, let Rodgers have some runs from that left hand side. Obviously, tactically, there would have been a reason for that I don't know about or haven't managed to kind of come up with. But I did kind of think swap them over. But then McGinn scored that wonderful goal from the left hand side as well. So maybe I think we can all agree. I mean, he does know exactly what he's doing. It was just something that crossed my mind. If I think back a couple of years against Newcastle, when Villa created a raucous atmosphere on that run to qualifying for the Conference League, Newcastle were flying at the time and we dismantled them 3-0. And I remember a lot of Newcastle fans saying, that's the best anyone's played against us this season, because they were having a really strong season and they ended up finishing top 4. I think back to that game, and I remember I think McGinn was excellent from what I remember. I think Dendoncker played in central midfield that game. I thought he was excellent in that game as well. But I remember Villa's best player that day being Jacob Ramsey. And I'm not looking to get on Jacob Ramsey's back here. He's had a terrible time with injury. But he came on against PSG and it was difficult for him to get into the flow of the game. I think for all the subs, actually, it was difficult to come on and enter the game and kind of pick up the pace that the game was being played at, because it was an unbelievable standard of football. But I think back to where Jacob Ramsey was that day, how good he was. I think he scored the first goal that day, and he was just absolutely brilliant, playing on top of his game at that point. This was before the run of niggly, annoying, long-term injuries he's had as well. When I watch him now, I get a bit sad because he's been fit for a while now, but he's not that Ramsey of 2 years ago for me. And I say again, a caveat it with, I'm not looking to get on Jacob Ramsey's back at all. I'm not calling him out. As I say, he's had a rough time of it, but he's just not quite the same. Doesn't carry quite the same amount of threat. I don't know whether Rodgers, because Rodgers is on the pitch all the time, I don't know whether Rodgers being there is something that has maybe taken away from him a little bit, but he's not that Jacob Ramsey from 2 years ago, and that does make me a little bit sad. And I don't know whether anyone else or in the chat or whether you agree with that, how you feel about Jacob Ramsey.
Not necessarily agree. I think my only thought on that would be that I think the rise of Morgan Rodgers, the signings of Asensio and Rashford, I just think it's taken people's eyes away from Jacob Ramsey a little bit, and maybe the team focuses on those players now more than feeding Jacob Ramsey and letting him run with the ball. I mean, I don't know for sure, but maybe his job has slightly adjusted in the team. And
maybe, yeah, that's a good point.
The Villa's focus now is feeding Asensio, feeding Rodgers, rather than potentially feeding Jacob Ramsey, and his role slightly differs.
He still makes great runs.
Absolutely. And I think he will be at that level. I think also you have to think that, Villa are playing a lot of high level games now. So, it's not as easy to stand out in high level games because the opposition and the players that you're up against are at such a high level. So I have a little bit of kind of sympathy in that regard. I'm not totally, my opinion is that he is still a great player, and I think he will.
That's my opinion too.
And I think he will. He's a real key player actually in that squad.
Do you think? I've been thinking a lot about this. I don't know whether I'm saying things right. As I say, this is just my opinion. There's no guarantees that I am right at all. I feel like he's just a yard slower than he was a couple of years ago before all those injuries. Maybe I'm thinking and leaning too heavily into these injuries. The other thing I was thinking is that the nature of being in and out and the rotation, does that hinder him a little bit? Is Ramsey one of those players that needs to be playing every week to see the best of him? A bit like Grealish.
I think there's definitely something in that. It was certainly the case, I felt, when he was coming back from that injury, that he needed rhythm and he needed games. And then he seemed to get into that rhythm, and then something else might happen to him. And then now he's come back and he's fit, and it's got to the stage in the season where, and this is a kind of good thing from a Villa perspective, is that Villa have had such good squad depth, and the injuries that happened at the back end of last season haven't happened this season. It's meant that Unai Emery's been able to rotate, and it's meant that actually Jacob coming back to full fitness, it's meant he hasn't had to play every game. Maybe from his point of view, he'll want to play every game, but maybe he's also thinking, actually, to get back to my top form, I want to and need to play every game. So I think there's definitely something in that where he needs to feel the rhythm every week to return to the top level.
Yeah, because we mentioned Rodgers and referenced Rodgers, who's been a superb signing for Villa and a superb player for Villa. And I think in Emery's eyes, he's Villa's best player, best attacking player, certainly. But he gets that rhythm because he plays every single week, regardless. You could say the same about Yuri Tillemans, I guess, as well in midfield. He plays every week. I mean, he's played an incredible amount of football. I don't know how he's not absolutely blowing at this point, but he's Villa's player of the season, Tillemans. But you know what I mean? Sometimes I think players, it's not easier when you're playing every week because obviously there's the fatigue element. But I do think certain players need that rhythm, and I do think that Ramsey might be one of them. Threats for Newcastle, then, I mean, you could pick anyone on the pitch, in all honesty, because they're a fantastic team. They've got some brilliant attacking players. I mean, Jacob Murphy, I don't know what one above a purple patch is, but he's definitely above a purple patch at this point. Jacob Murphy just seems to score every single week, and I'm devastated. I bottled putting him as my triple captain on fantasy football last week and went for him as vice captain and didn't use my triple captain actually in the end, but no one cares about my fantasy football team. Obviously, Bruno is a sensational midfield player. I was going to pick out Harvey Barnes because I thought he was electric against Palace from what I saw last night, and the same against Manchester United in fairness. I actually want to pick out Livramento at left back. For someone who is actually a right back and right footed, you wouldn't know because at playing a left back, he seems to be just as good. And Lewis Hall being injured has got Trippier and that experience back in the team for them, which I do think, experience is key in the big games. But I think the way Livramento's attacked down that left-hand side, I think it's actually made Newcastle a better team, which is I wouldn't have thought when Lewis Hall went out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really rate Tino Livramento. I think he's excellent. And I think, when they signed him, he was obviously the long-term replacement, essentially, for Kieran Trippier, who, mid-30s now. They're obviously looking at the next step in their development and their squad building, and Livramento will probably be the right back going forward. But given the fact that, as you mentioned, that Lewis Hall has been injured and he's been so good this season, I think Livramento's done brilliantly at left back. And actually, I think there have been question marks over whether Kieran Trippier might leave in the last couple of windows. And maybe some Newcastle fans questioned his form earlier this season, maybe tail end of last season. But I think he's really raised his level as well in the last few weeks. And I think you're right to pick out Jacob Murphy as well. I think it's 19 goal involvements now, by far numbers-wise, having his best Premier League career. And I think it's another one that Newcastle fans are able to attach to. I think Jacob's family or some of his wider family are from the local area. He's been there 8 years from their promotion back to the Premier League, knows the club inside out. Miguel Almiron, he's seen him off. He's been sold, it seems, every window. We're talking about Newcastle wanting to sign a right winger. Well, the answer's right there. The answer is right there within their squad, because every question that's asked of Jacob Murphy, he answers it. And the goal last night was absolutely magnificent, and the strike was brilliant. And I just think he's a great story. He spent his time in the EFL and now being a top-level Premier League player. I think you should obviously pick out the midfield as well. Midfield three, Joelinton, Tonali and Bruno. The 2-8s, Joelinton and Bruno will lock on to the two central midfielders of Villa. Possibly an argument to be the best midfield three in the Premier League. I think it's, Villa have probably got a case as well, but I think Newcastle have definitely got a case as having the best midfield three. Villa have got a few different options in that regard. Absolutely brilliant. And then, you kind of look at the two centre-backs. They're obviously missing Sven Botman, but Dan Burn just seems to, wherever he plays, do fantastically well. And Fabian Schär, who I feel is a little bit underrated. I think he's brilliant on the ball. Will grab you a goal, as we saw last night. And
saw it at Villa Park in the Cup last year as well, didn't we? It was good too.
Yeah, and I just think, they've got quality all over the pitch. And then we haven't even mentioned the big man up front.
I mean, no point. We're not going to be saying anything that people haven't been saying about Isak all season. Famous last words from me, though. He's not quite in the form he was a month or so ago.
He got taken off in the second half, so a nice, easy night for him last night. He'll be ready to go the weekend.
Yeah. Let's have a quick little gander at, oh, God, I didn't want that to happen, that's for sure. Can I try and change that over? What have I done here? I just wanted to look at the league table, but as you can see, I'm struggling with the console. There we go. That'll have to do for now. Newcastle, I think, have given themselves, Newcastle are pretty much where I thought Forest would be. They're the ones now that I think are definitely going to get in the top 5. Forest are falling down 57 points. Man City 5th, 55 points. Chelsea 6th, 54 on the same points as Villa, but with a far superior goal difference. Is this must win for Dave Reid, or is it must not lose for Dave Reid?
Tough. I think, look, the goal difference means it's essentially an extra point that Villa need to get. I think I'd be looking to take 4 points from the next 2 games, including Manchester City. So whatever you think is the most likely game for Villa to win, you've got to win. So in that regard, it probably is must win against Newcastle. But feels like we've been saying that actually for the last couple of games. Got to win that, and the team have delivered. So why can't they deliver this one? I fear a little bit for Chelsea. They seem to be dropping like a stone, and I think the crowd getting on their back is affecting the Chelsea players a little bit. Maybe they'll do better away from home in the final 6 games. Manchester City, I expect to be there. So then you're basically fighting for one place, really. And Forest, every time I think the wheels are gonna fall off, they seem to bounce back. We'll see how they go. So yeah, 4 points from the next 2.
Yeah, I think it's going to end up Newcastle 3rd, City 4th, and then it's going to be out of Villa and Forest for that final spot. I've got a feeling. And then, of course, it could be Villa v Forest in the FA Cup final as well. So Midlands could have a big say in the big stories towards the end of the season. Right then, Dave Reid, let's finish with our hot/freezing cold take. Have you got one? Do you want me to go first? Because I have one.
Well, I was going to say, why don't you go first, since you give it the big tease earlier?
I'm giving the big tease. I've got two in a row, right? That's still only 2 out of about 40 that we've done this season, but it's still two in a row. My theory is Marlon to come on and score again. That's what I'm going to go with for my hot take. What
so
about
not
you?
To start, but to come on and score.
I mean, if he scores, if he starts and scores, I'm still going to claim that.
Right,
but
okay.
I don't think he will start, so I'm going to go with Marlon to come on and grab another goal.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with Watkins to start and score. How about that?
Right, we'll be happy with either of those, that's for sure. Right then, that does us for this week's preview show. Thanks to our sponsor, Match Bingo. Do check them out. I'll just flash the QR code up on the screen again now for those watching on YouTube. Remember, 1874.io/Match Bingo to go and check out their app and try and play some Villa Bingo, basically. Thanks to those that have been live in the chat with us. Always appreciated. Please, if you're watching and you're not subscribed with your post notifications on, click that button immediately. That really, really helps us as a channel. And give the video a like and leave a comment as well. If you're listening via audio, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and just say something nice about us. That would also be really, really appreciated. 5 stars on Spotify as well if you're listening via that method, and a comment on the episode. All these things, I go on about them every week, but they do really, really help us. So wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, do the things that I've just asked, and that would be much appreciated by the channel. For some reason, my voice seems to be going at the end of this show. I think it's still recovering from Tuesday night. Going to be a little bit. I'm going to have some problems next week. Obviously, it's Easter weekend. I've got a very big life event happening across the weekend as well. So I'm unsure when the next content
that comes first, Daniel. Remember that.
I need to try and get something out. It might be that I just do something on my phone after the Newcastle game and get it beamed out. But we'll see what's going on. But yeah, I'm going to try and get the content out. Obviously, I want as much content as possible to go out, but sometimes life does get in the way. But there'll be something going on. Villa playing on a Tuesday has messed me up a little bit as well. That doesn't help. We're trying to get content out because that's an extra piece that needs to be done. But never mind. Obviously, we all love Villa having as many games as possible. Dave Reid wouldn't cover me either because he's busy, so that wasn't very nice of him. Too busy being Sky Sports News' best anchor.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No. I see you, Dave. Don't worry about that. Getting too big for his boots now that he's got a prime time slot on Sky Sports News. But yeah, there'll be some form of content next week, so don't worry. It just won't be on Monday, so it might be a little bit delayed. But if you've got your notifications on, you'll know when the content's coming. So yeah, thanks ever so much for all the support. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy Villa Park on Saturday, and as always,